Slowly, steadily, the jobless rate falls. Arkansas exports, will they steadily, literally go south? Rarely out of the news, a major state agency is back in the headlines. And does hanging tough equal playing smart? Arkansas Week, next.
Arkansas Week is made possible in part by the Arkansas Times, keeping you informed by covering people, events, and politics in Arkansas. By FM 89, KUAR in Little Rock, with in-depth news reporting, analysis, and discussion each weekday.
This is Arkansas Week.
Hello again, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us for Arkansas Week, and Arkansas Week in which the state saw some pretty gratifying numbers about the unemployment rate, and that's where we'll begin tonight. Jacob Kaufman joins us from KUAR Public Radio in Central Arkansas. Wes Brown, reporter columnist for Talk Business and Politics. John Lyon with the Arkansas News Bureau based in Little Rock, and thanks to everybody for coming in. Wes, the numbers were kind of encouraging, a steady downward tick in the Arkansas unemployment rate, the jobless rate.
Yeah, we're down for the first time since I think June of 2001. Arkansas unemployment rate is below 5%. It's down to 4.8%, which is actually puts us below the national unemployment rate, which is at 5%. And so we're seeing good growth in I guess the number shows good growth in healthcare services, healthcare jobs, professional and business services, and construction are the three top job areas where we're seeing growth. Actually, this month in December, the manufacturing sector saw a little bit of growth, which is unusual. For most of the 2015, we've seen those jobs slide. So it's the encouraging numbers, but still there's the question of the missing workers, where there's some workers that are missing in the economy, about 60,000. Are those people still looking for jobs? They've given up on the on looking for jobs. So the numbers are good, but I guess the question is how much lower can we go? Is this the bottom? Or in looking at the national rate, which has been at 5% for the last 3 months, it kind of tells you that maybe this is the bottom, and we're going to start seeing that slowly go back up.
Well, even amid that, even as we tape our broadcast on Friday morning, there's some cautionary notes from the economy.
yeah. There's the gross domestic product (GDP) numbers are down for the second straight month. In the second quarter, it was a robust 3.7%. In the third quarter, it's 2% growth in the U.S. economy. This quarter, the first reading is at 0.7%. 0.7%, and that's below 1%. So we're starting to see the U.S. economy hit a wall. Will that creep into Arkansas numbers? I think it likely will. You'll start to see those numbers in the jobless rate, in other areas of growth. So, one of the things that I look for in if we're hitting a downturn, it's just the eye test. Go out and look. Our stores closing, or are people doing less, are busy on the weekend and shopping days? So, and I'm starting to see that. You're starting to see that in eye test. People are just kind of a little bit more cautious about going into next year.
And through it all, everybody around the globe, even in the Middle East, keeps on pumping.
Yeah, OPEC is still, the OPEC countries are still, that is so unusual to see OPEC, as the price of crude oil goes down below $30, not at least come together and say, we're going to halt production and force that price of crude oil to come back up. But no, we're still seeing them pumping, and I think Goldman Sachs said a few months ago that they believe that the price of crude oil would go down to $20 and maybe below that. If it does, it's going to be pretty painful for the oil industry, but
that ripples.
Yeah, and it ripples into transport, just every part of the economy. It ripples into. I know some of the. I think the construction companies and people in the industrial sector are saying it's starting to affect them. I think Nucor Steel, which is a company that has big operations up in northeast Arkansas, they are struggling with the commodity prices. So it has a broad effect. Also, it affects the inflation numbers. That number, I don't think the Fed had put the rate at 2%. It's going to be tough for it to get back up, get to 2%, which is their kind of their goal for raising the interest rate again. So it's going to be pretty tough over the next 2006. Some of the oil companies, Murphy Oil down in El Dorado, Murphy USA, which is an offshoot of Murphy Oil, Southwestern Energy, the Fayetteville Shell leader, has basically said we're writing off 2016. So look for us in 2017. It's going to be tough.
Well, there's plenty of it. And still on the economy, there was we talking about step-by-step, incremental steps. Cuba.
Yeah, what we've seen, the president has slowly through the U.S. Department of Commerce and some of the financial agencies, the FDIC has started to open up certain things like credit and from the financial side, and then on the other side, the Department of Commerce is opening small steps in trade, and you're starting to see some back and forth between Cuba and the United States, some trade in the agri sector and some of the tourism sector. But still, the bottom line is that Congress, for the embargo to be lifted, Congress has to pass, has to come together and say we're going to lift the embargo. And still, we're not seeing that. Even some of our Arkansas congressional officials have said that's not something we want to do right now. So until Congress comes together and lift that embargo, you're not going to see this total trade come together where the U.S. and states like Arkansas will be trading with Cuba.
Seems to be close to a 5-1 split in the Arkansas delegation.
By and large, it seems like Arkansas's elected officials seem to really want to open up this trade because of rise in the agriculture industry. And I think Tom Cotton, the freshman senator, is the only one that I'm aware of, at least from the congressional delegation, that's been strongly opposed to this. I know Senator Bozeman and Representative Rick Crawford have tried to say that they've been champions of opening up trade.
And then Governor Hutchinson has been behind it too.
Yeah, he went to Cuba.
Yeah, he's also So, but once it gets to, I guess, to Congress in Washington D.C., I think it's going to be still a tough vote for it to because you got some pro-Cuba. People down in Miami area, congressional officials in Miami and some of the southern states who still are kind of opposed to moving that embargo.
Bottom line, no pun intended, we're still some distance away from seeing mammoth shipments of Arkansas beans and corn and wheat and rice.
I still think, I don't think it's going to happen during the Obama administration. I think it's going to take another president to come in where there's a bit more agreeable relationship between the president and Congress, and then think you'll see that change.
Yeah, I guess even while there is this kind of deadlock right now, there's still also more momentum than there's been in decades. The president is doing a lot of executive moves to move that trade, and we're starting to see some things happen, and people traveling down there, and you're starting to see Cuba come, some delegations from the educational side, economic development, they're trading ideas. So I think I think we're in a period where we say we can look forward to seeing that embargo lifted in the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, more in the last 4 or 5 months, or certainly in the last year, than in the previous 49 or 50 or 51 years since that embargo was imposed during the Kennedy era.
Yeah, it's encouraging. It's encouraging. As Jacob said, there are things that are already happening.
Depending on your politics, of course.
Definitely. I think one of the things that's going to have to happen is that I think the business community has to put some pressure on the on Congress to make this move, and I think you'll start seeing that pretty soon after Obama leaves office.
Markets. Mm-hmm. Department of Human Services, as we said at the top of the broadcast, rarely out of the news, is still in the news. Jake.
Yeah, Cecile Blucher, who heads the Child Welfare Division of the Department of Human Services in the state, announced that she was going to resign as of, I think, the end of March was when she's going to step down.
She didn't cite any particular problems with DHS, although there has been a review in the last year showing that the foster care system especially is overstressed and beleaguered. Of course, Cecile Blucher has told legislators numerous times, that's right, I need more funding, I need more staff. The governor at a press conference was asked about it, and he said he praised her work in the past 7 years that she's had the position, and but said he was caught by surprise that it was happening.
John?
DHS has also been in the news over a report that was released by Disability Rights Arkansas, which is an advocacy group that is allowed to inspect human development centers in Arkansas. And it issued a report. It's actually its third report about the Boonville Human Development Center. This one focuses on a death of a resident that occurred in February of last year. The woman had been, shortly after she was given a new treatment program was designed for her, she died, and the treatment program called for the staff to ignore her if she faked a seizure to get attention, and she had a seizure and died. Now, DHS says that all of their policies were followed in trying to revive the woman. There's some question about how quickly those steps were taken, but DHS has also pointed out that this group wants the Boonville Center shut down. Actually, one of their past reports had in the title, the Boonville Human Development Center should be shut down. So they're planning to get together, the agency and the group, and talk about the report and talk about what steps could be taken to better protect residents and to better investigate deaths that happen at human development centers.
And Disability Rights Arkansas, they are sort of an advocacy group, specifically for people with developmental disabilities, but they're also federally funded and federally authorized to do this. So they do have some weight or backing, it seems, from the federal government in some way. And as you mentioned in the report, they do want to close down this Human Development Center. And their arguments is that the building is particularly old compared to other human development centers and particularly poor condition. The Department of Human Services has said in the past, yes, this building should be in better condition. We don't have quite the funds we need, but we can still make it a comfortable place to live. But they wanted to speak to this 24-year-old woman. The reason they even found out she died is because she, along with others, DRA claims, are victims of excessive use of restraints if there's some sort of episode because these people have developmental disabilities. So that's what this is all over, why they even looked at this instance in the first place.
Yeah. Restraints or excessive restraints that go beyond the bounds of an accepted medical or psychiatric protocol. Right. Not the first time we've heard about this.
Right, and I'm not sure about all the specifics of this, but I think disability rights advocates, they would say that modern mental health techniques simply don't have this sort of use of force in a way to restrain people who are having episodes or to chemically restrain them by giving them some sort of pill or injection that would calm them down.
And that's been a criticism of Arkansas and people with disabilities in the past that Arkansas hasn't caught up with the rest of the nation in moving people with disabilities, one, into community, into jobs and other things. And a lot of people, including this group, believes some of our methods are backwards.
And this group has actually investigated juvenile detention centers for similar uses of restraints.
Right.
I think the facility in Alexander, Arkansas has come up a lot in the news.
Yeah, and you look at the history under the director that's resigning in March, and these kind of issues have been there during her entire tenure, and the question has to be raised, and I think some of the reporters posed that question in a manner. Was she forced out? And she said she wasn't, but sometimes in these situations, I think change is necessary. And I think there was some pressure for her to step down and to have a new face there, so that these issues that also go back to Representative Harris will. This agency and these issues can move forward. I think it'll come up again in the legislative session that's coming up.
I was going to say, with Representative Harris saga, he was, of course, got a lot of attention about he tried to rehome some of his adopted kids. He gave them to friends and relatives. with all this, there's some allegations, none of it's really been proven at all, that Cecile Blucher was pressured in some way by Justin Harris, who was a chair of a legislative committee that oversaw the Child Welfare Division, to let him accept these kids in the first place, because there's some argument that maybe they shouldn't have ever been accepted in his home in the first place, but they were a little problematic, so to speak.
Right.
Through all of that, though, it does seem that sooner or later it goes back to the general. It's always a question of money. There can be mishandling, or bungling, whatever you want to call it, or honest mistakes, whatever. But it goes back to money eventually.
In some issues, like having enough foster beds, that's literally not even a money issue sometimes. It's, are there enough people in Arkansas that are willing or able to do this, to serve this role for our society?
Yeah, and I think Blucher raised that issue when she, in her resignation letter, talking about the fact that, you know, one of the things that she's always asked for is we need more money for more social workers, for more care workers, and the other issue is in this sector of the DHS, this high turnover, and the need to have a legislature look at some of those issues, and I think that's always been the case from in especially in social services. The question of more money, high turnover, low pay, that those are, you see it in senior services, you see it in the prisons. So, but I think this issue, the issue of money, what's going to happen when it comes to the session, they're going to say, well, we don't have enough money to deal with these situations.
Well, the governor has said he will ask for $1 million for 40 more caseworkers.
Speaking of money and attempts to save it, or to spend it more wisely anyway, we go to the matter of criminal sentencing, particularly as it involves nonviolent drug offenses, a division. I don't know exactly how much momentum is developing, but there is more discussion, it does appear to me, than ever about the wisdom of mandatory sentencing, particularly for nonviolent crimes. Is there a better, smarter alternative than locking away nonviolent drug offenders, many of whom are basically users?
Yeah, President Obama's final State of the Union address, that's one of the few things that he actually said maybe he could accomplish in his remaining time in office. He said there's some bipartisan support for it. I can't remember if Paul Ryan stood and clapped to that or not, but there is some leadership, at least in Congress, who have said that they, in the Senate, said that they do want to have some kind of reform on this issue. Tom Cotton, according to Politico, a website and magazine, said behind closed doors that he wants to sink this initiative, this bipartisan initiative, that he thinks it'll end up letting a lot of criminals out in the streets when they should still be incarcerated. So I went to the 2016 annual winter's meeting of the Arkansas Sheriff's Association. Connor Eldridge was there, U.S. Senate candidate for the Democrats, and John Bozeman, the incumbent Republican, who faces a primary challenger also. And I asked them both about minimum sentencing. It was the same day this Cotton story came out, and Connor Eldridge said that for first-time drug users, nonviolent offenders, there may be some room to reconsider the idea of mandatory minimum sentences. John Bozeman, not quite as specific as Eldridge, though, did say that he thinks that for some nonviolent offenders, there probably is some room to change sentences, that not all of them necessarily deserve long prison sentences. But I think also yesterday, a couple days ago, Connor Eldridge also came out with another sentencing proposal of his own, saying he wants life sentences for a lot of violent offenders, those sexual predators.
Well, all right.
So everyone wants to be clear that they are tough.
Tough on crime. Well, you see this reconsideration and have for some years now in Arkansas. Now we have forums and seminars and legislative hearings on how expensive it is to lock away, and then in the next session we toughen the sentencing code in some aspect and tell the Department of Correction to handle it.
Well, we have task forces and committees that have been meeting, that have been talking about things to do to deal with the rapidly growing prison population in Arkansas, and we may see some legislation coming up in 2017 to deal with sentencing, perhaps loosen up some of the tougher sentencing laws, but that's an issue that will always be divisive. There will always be people who say that we're being too soft on crime.
Yeah, and I think, you know, even when Governor Hutchinson came into office, he actually
said that that was one of the things he wanted to look at, take a look at the sentencing, and also looking at on the other side of prison, doing things that preventative measures to especially on the drug abuse side, and prevent people from going into the prison system. And even some of the Republican lawmakers, I think David Sanders has proposed some things, some measures to reform some of those issues. But as you said, there hasn't been any momentum. Once you get into the legislative session, it seems to be a lot of kickback for these type of rehabilitative type of measures.
Yeah, it's an issue, though. It seems like the pendulum kind of swings based on, a lot of times, some high-profile crime that ends up in the news. A lot of times will generate some desire to respond forcefully to something.
Yeah.
So it's always got that outside
Pressure.
dynamic to it.
Yeah.
All right, on another social legal front, U.S. District Court this past week, John, U.S. District Judge didn't exactly certify for class action, but opened the door to a class action on the matter of Planned Parenthood and Medicaid reimbursement.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood filed a lawsuit after the governor said that he was defunding the group. And he said this following the release of some videos, some undercover videos by an anti-abortion group that showed Planned Parenthood officials, not in Arkansas, talking about providing tissue from abortions to researchers for compensation. And so Planned Parenthood sued in Arkansas, and initially they got a temporary ruling that the state must continue providing funding for the services for the plaintiffs in the lawsuit. So then the next step was for Planned Parenthood to say, well, we want class action status so that we can get funding for all of our patients in Arkansas.
Yeah, there were just three initial plaintiffs.
Just three initially who were not identified by name, but as Jane Doe 1 through 3 in the lawsuit. On the same day that the ruling came down on class action status, a federal grand jury in Houston, Texas, had been investigating Planned Parenthood over the videos. It announced that it found no wrongdoing by Planned Parenthood, but it indicted two of the people who were behind the videos on charges of tampering with government documents and offering to buy human organs.
Yeah, and you've seen some of the Republican activists. I mean, they are in a tirade over this and saying
some
that
conservative Democrats.
Yeah, and saying this is wrong. Instead of prosecuting the person who came up with this information, they should be prosecuting Planned Parenthood for this. So you've seen a lot of back and forth in arguments and on some of the social conservative websites. You've seen that debate out there.
Yeah, it came after, I guess the previous week was another bad week for people who want to repeal abortion access. You know, with the 12-week ban in Arkansas being struck down and the 6-week ban in, I think it was South Dakota.
South Dakota, yeah, by the Supreme Court.
Well, in fact, there have been numerous, 5 investigations have either concluded or are still underway in Congress. About half the 50 states have now investigated or declined to investigate Planned Parenthood, and thus far, including Republican states, haven't come up with anything that's prosecutable, which would involve the actual sale defined as for profit of fetal tissue, body parts. Fetal body parts is the language that critics invariably use.
Right. Well, they characterize it as selling parts, but Planned Parenthood says we are allowed to get compensation for our expenses in providing the tissue, but that's not the same thing as selling.
Yeah, and I think that goes to especially in the organ donation and procurement community, that is allowed. You know, that is allowed where tissues can be. You can be compensated for the harvesting of tissue, not necessarily baby parts, but tissues.
Well, and in the wake, the blowback of that, Planned Parenthood at least no longer accepts even reimbursement for those costs.
Right. They changed
Public
their
relation
policy.
purposes, if nothing else, it dropped that.
And we should point out that in Arkansas, they don't even do the type of abortion that results in the tissue that you could provide to researchers.
In fact, only 2 states, both on the Pacific coast, I believe, engaged in tissue transfer or sale or donations, however you want to style it.
Yeah, and I think this is an issue, especially the issue is Planned Parenthood, and this is just one of the latest of the issues where Republican activists or conservative activists can attack Planned Parenthood, and I think you're going to continue to see that pretty soon there'll probably be another issue soon that comes up, and we'll have the same kind of debate on what. Should we take funding from Planned Parenthood? Should we shut down Planned Parenthood? And I think that debate that'll continue well past this issue.
Well, Planned Parenthood still figured in the Thursday night, GOP debate. Practically all the candidates, I guess, mentioned it at one point or another, which brings to mind the Iowa caucus is Monday. Our former governor, our former first lady, both on the ballot.
Yeah, and Huckabee did the undercard debate because he's polling too low to get on the main stage. I think John Gilmore and Rick Santorum are also on that stage, maybe one other person. And Huckabee's most noted contribution to the race, I think, last night was joining Donald Trump along with Rick Santorum, planning to be at this veterans event while Donald Trump was skipping the main event because he didn't like the moderator choice and that the network wouldn't change the moderator for him.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be, with Trump and the Republicans, it's going to be a circus all the way into the Iowa caucus and through the rest of the primary.
It did look kind of awkward, though, because Huckabee and Santorum both say, I'm not endorsing Trump, vote for us, but they're standing up there with Trump, with, Trump's name behind him and all that, and, so he's got that picture going on, and Trump and Huckabee and Santorum, of course, the former Iowa winners for the past 2 contests, so there they are with Trump.
Yeah.
Good for business everywhere.
Yeah,
spend that money. All right. We're out of time. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thanks to you for coming in. We'll see you next week.
Arkansas Week is made possible in part by the Arkansas Times, keeping you informed by covering people, events, and politics in Arkansas. By FM 89, KUAR in Little Rock, with in-depth news reporting, analysis, and discussion each weekday.